following conversation is with Justin Cruz. Justin is a chef at Faye's Restaurant in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. He is also a recovered addict who now helps people who also struggle with substance abuse break their addictions and maintain a healthy lifestyle. His story of recovery was truly inspiring to me, and I am thankful he reached out to share his story. Without further ado, here is Justin Cruz. Well, hello. Thank you for being here, Justin. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Chef Justin Cruz, originally from New Bedford, Massachusetts, and super excited here to be with Chef Owen today.
Hell yeah. So Justin is the first person who I would say I don't know personally. We have mutual friends, Randy, but you reached out to me on Facebook and said you were like a fan of the show and you were interested in doing it and talking a little bit about sobriety and substance abuse in the industry and everything, which we talk about a lot on here. So I think it's great for sure. And I'm happy to have you, man. Thanks for coming.
Man. Good to be here.
Hell yeah. So just walk me through your career a little bit and where you got started.
Okay. So 2003, I wind up in Louisville, Kentucky, going to grad school. Again, originally from the New Bedford, South Coast area. I had a mutual friend I went to college with. We decided to go to grad school together. So I wind up in Louisville, and nice town, very social town, more restaurants per capita than any other metropolis in the country.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Not saying that they should all be open. Some of them should get out of the business, to be honest. But there are more there than LA, New York, Chicago, any of your big cities. And I was a front of the house guy, honestly. I was a bartender, bar manager. I focused on the front, dealt with the people. And then somewhere in there, I got really tired of dealing with some of the things that come from that. And of course, it's nothing against human beings at all, the way that we cope, the way that we behave sometimes. But I got tired of dealing with what alcohol did to people when they consumed in excess. Mm-hmm. And then asked to manage that. And my living was tied directly to that. I mean, there's a lot of bartenders out there, restaurant workers out there that can identify exactly with what I'm saying. And so I shifted. I pivoted. I moved into culinary. Had a guy that was one of the culinary directors at Not Your Average Joe's in the 2000s, and he was willing to teach me some things. His name was Ed Balicki, and Ed was brilliant. And so Ed took his time on Saturday mornings, and he taught me how to properly cut a vegetable, how to poach, how to pickle. These are super basics, just very, very minimal. And it gave me a foundation for the understanding I have today.
That's great. Yeah. It's so nice when people are generous with their knowledge, like just so willing to share, especially when you're first getting started. It's just like, gives you a jumping off point.
It does. Ed was Johnson & Wales grad. He worked under Todd English for years up in Boston, and then again down in Orlando with the Olives brand and with some of other of Todd's brands. But, I would have had to have paid a lot of money and gone to school like a lot of chefs do, and then taken the time to hopefully break in and make it. And Ed gave me kind of a fast track off to the side.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
So having done both front of house and back of house, which do you enjoy more? Like looking back at your whole career, which one do you prefer, and why?
Well, I made a lot of money doing the front. Mm-hmm. Sure did. I mean, it paid for my life and paid for some of the even some of the not so good decisions I was making in my life for years. But as I look back, nothing against mixologists, nothing against front of the house in any way. There is a certain set of, skill set that goes with that. But for me, there's nothing like being a chef. There's nothing like working in the back, man. The sky's the limit. The possibilities are endless. And the ability for the top guy to learn from the guy that just broke in is very possible on a daily.
Mhm.
Everyone can learn from everyone. And that's kind of the cool thing about being in the back.
That is the cool thing. That's one of my favorite aspects. I've told this story before, so I apologize to anybody who listens to all the episodes, but I was in school and had just gotten back from my externship. So I've worked in one kitchen for like 5 months at this point, like very, very green. But I was finishing my program at the CIA, and Chef X, who was our, big scary French chef in our last restaurant class, we were doing herb oils, and like I showed him a new way to do it basically. And he was like, great, this is how we're going to do it now. And that, like, at the time made me very like emotional, because I was like, wow, I just taught this 65-year-old chef who's been doing this since he was 15 something. And he totally was just like cool with it and wasn't trying to like belittle me or anything. He was just like, great, this is a good way to do it. Like accepting that new knowledge and just like putting it forth,
That's very cool. It's very humble on his part too, with those many years to still be open to a younger student or chef being able to show him something.
100%. I think whenever you close yourself off to knowledge, it's like you're just the only person you're hurting is yourself.
Yeah,
like, genuinely, because you can just keep learning. Sky's the limit, like you said. Like you can really just keep learning, keep stacking up different things you learn like across the way, connect to other little things that you learn later, and you're like, oh wow, like I didn't know that, and it's fun. Like that's what attracts me to this, because it's like infinite. It's like a pool that you can't really reach the bottom of, which is pretty awesome.
It's a good way to put it, man.
For sure. And then even like baking has its own little I think of them as like universes. Like it's like baking is its own universe, cooking is its own universe, but then within baking there's chocolate, like people who work exclusively with chocolate, and that is just like so technical. Like you're closer to a scientist at that point than you are to a chef.
Most
like
definitely.
It's insane. And then people who work with sugar, do sugar art, people who do the cakes, like it's just it never ends.
Yeah,
truly, which is like so incredible, so fun. What's the most difficult thing you've had to overcome in the industry?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I probably have to go back to 2012, 2013. So at that point, I'm still fully immersed in using in my addiction. I'm a proud recovering addict, and I'm serving tables at the old Not Your Average Joe's on Route 6, which is now Joe's Original, owned by Steve Silverstein.
And just for people who don't know, Steve, we're in the greater New Bedford area, and I have also worked for Steve Silverstein for 2 years. So that's our connection. How we kind of know each other is through working at Servewell and knowing people in that company. But
yeah, and Steve's great to work for. I recommend him.
He's amazing. Yeah, I love him.
Big heart, tons of charity work, amazing name. So I've decided that I'm going to start to change my decisions and my behavioral habits, and I'm pretty wrapped up in the cocaine game. I've got the bag in my pocket at all times. I'm serving dinner to families, which is basically being a fraud, being high on that kind of, substance, and then pretending to be something you're not for the sake of profit. So I decided I wanted to change that, and it was difficult. It was to stop using without getting professional help, which I do not recommend, and still keeping an eye on the real reason you're there, to pay your bills, to try to better yourself in life, to try to change the circle of people that's around you carefully. Incredibly difficult. And I had sought out a bankruptcy lawyer. I had owed quite a bit of money, delinquent, was able to get some of that settled. But I had that going on top of trying to manage or stay away from my not using, and then just sort of act like everything was okay. I really should have gone to a recovery. There's no doubt. I should have found a place that emphasized recovery, and there's tons of them in the state of Massachusetts and in New England for anyone that's looking. And I never want to relive that again. To do that on my own, that was not wise of me, but that is the hardest thing I've ever gone through.
So I'm curious because you said that you don't recommend that people seek professional, but then you also kind of feel like it was extremely difficult to do it in isolation, like alone. So what's your thinking there? Like why?
Okay, I may have misspoken. So I do recommend that people seek professional help. What I don't recommend was the doing it on your own.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's one in a whatever number you want to attach to it to find recovery in the first place, to truly find it, have that gift, and accept that into your life, and then to let it guide you as you live. To try to get those results without seeking professional help, no way. And I have no idea, and I'm not standing up claiming to be the one in however many billion to pull it off. But looking back, I had no business doing it that way. I should have gone, sat down, used my voice, and said, I need help. I'm struggling. And I didn't. I had my people that I talked to on the side. I used some principles that I knew about the 12 steps to guide me. But I still had that stubborn in me that didn't want to go and be fully vulnerable in a program. And I do not recommend that at all. I recommend the vulnerability. I recommend getting to a place to where you can use your voice and you can say, I have no choice but to do this. Everything about tomorrow hinges on this today, and the need for recovery and how important it is. So looking back, I made it harder on myself than I needed to. But that is the single hardest thing. Yeah.
Do you think you'd be who you are today if you had gone to a recovery center, or do you think there's something to you having done it alone that's kind of made you such a like advocate and like trying to help other people? Do you think there's something to that?
It's possible. I still think that if I had gone, I would have come out a huge fan, because now that I've worked in recovery and I've seen, you get a front row seat to blessings and miracles and the unbelievable every single day to watch it. I'll share an example. So I was traveling to Louisville. This would have been probably 2022. And I was at work and I was getting ready to head to TF Green Airport. And where I was working, it's in Seekonk, Massachusetts. And so I had someone picking me up and taking me to the airport, right? So as I'm standing there with my bags, this car pulls up and this back door flies open. It's a Friday afternoon. And this little girl, 5 years old maybe, jumps out and just starts running directly at me. And I'm standing in front of the doors where guests enter and exit, oftentimes where they process themselves into the facilities of the program. And she just runs straight. And I'm like, who's this little girl going to see? And she just runs right up to me and then runs right around me. And the door opens to that building. And she just jumps and she leaps right into her mother's arm. Her mother had been there for 60 days, had just completed a program, substance, self-harm. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, there's not many people that get to see those types of moments. There's not many people that get that front row seat to experience the payoff to some of the work they've put in to help others. And so it's such a cool thing, So I think just based on my experience working there, I would still be a huge advocate. But if I had gone and had sort of my frequent flyer, card or my graduation from the program in my hand, maybe even more. I've never thought of that before.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing what you're doing. When did it like start? Like you're using, like, how did you kind of like, because cocaine is beyond your normal drug. Most people it's alcohol and weed. So how did you kind of get started? Like I don't know what I'm trying to say, but because I'm not trying to be like, how'd you get started on doing coke? You know what I mean? But it's like
the introduction.
Yeah. Like, how did you kind of fall into those patterns?
So I was open to it long before I ever used, without even realizing it. Just sort of that escape, that willingness to, I'm so unhappy here, that I'm willing to change here and be something I'm not, and then just see where the night takes me. See where this repetitive thing that appears to be fun, because there's drinks and there's women and there's money seems to come easy and go easy as well. The whole perception of it. So I was into the fun, and by being into the fun that much to the point of escaping who I was, it finds you. It has this GPS on it that it just lands on those that are open to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was bar manager of an ale house in Louisville, Kentucky. This was probably the spring of 2004. And I'm locking up the ale house. And in Louisville, a lot of the bars have the old 4 a.m. licenses. So they can just sell all night. I mean, it's 90+% of the world's bourbon is made an hour from where I was standing that night. That's incredible. And the bourbon industry's only exploded more since.
Great town, Louisville. I really enjoy it. I spent some time up there. My stepmom is originally from Louisville, so we used to go up there when I was younger, but it's a great town.
Good town, social, laid back. But some of those things oftentimes feed into what this was. And so I'm locking up the ale house, and I get a phone call from a buddy of mine who lived right across the street in the condos. And he just said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm locking up the ale house, and I got, person X and person Y with me, 2 of my female coworkers. Why don't you come over? I've got some guys here that you all served earlier that night. We'll hang out. So I lived 1 street behind that. So I thought, yeah, I'll have a couple of beers, walk home, wake up tomorrow, do it all over. When we got into the condo, my 2 female coworkers noticed a couple of fellas they knew. So they instantly peeled off and started talking to them. My buddy walked up, tapped me on the hip, and did the whole head pull, like, follow me. So I followed him. Went down this long hallway, and I remember he pulled out a set of keys. Now, mind you, he owns this place. This isn't someone else's. This isn't shared space. It's him. He pulls out a set of keys, and he unlocks a door. And my first thought was like, man, why are you locking doors in your own house? Red flag.
Yeah, right away. You're just like,
who does that? Unless you have little kids and it's an entrance and it's a safety issue. So he opens this door, and we step in, closes the door, locks it. When I look up, there's 5 guys who are all college athletes. I had watched them play on TV the day before.
Oh, wow.
And they all go to the local university there. And I recognized every single one of them. And when I walked in, of course, they turned, because now there's another person, and their bodies sort of shifted. And I felt the energy a little bit, like when kids are doing something wrong when their parents catch them.
Who the fuck is this guy? Type of thing.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So their bodies shifted. And when they did, I knew that there was something else. So I sort of just like rubbernecked to look and see what was on the plate in front of them, that they all seemed to be sitting around. It was like the silent centerpiece. I expected to see a big pile of weed. What I saw at 24 years old that I had never seen before was a big pile of cocaine. So now I'm in a room with guys that I think are cool, that have popularity, with my buddy, who I think is a great guy, and he still is. He's now found recovery as well.
That's great.
And he just said to me, "Do you want to try a line? It's not going to hurt you. It's just one." And right away, my insecurities came rushing. It was the toxic masculinity. It was, I know it's not going to hurt me. I'm tough. Watch this. I'm as cool as them. All of those things that basically equal nothing in life. It took control of me. And so he handed me a rolled up dollar bill, and I took it. I remember I handed it back to him, and I said, "How much do I owe you?" And he said, $5. And I reached in my pocket. I paid it, and I had no idea that one line was going to turn into 8.5 years, that I couldn't walk away from it.
Wow.
$5 would become $2,000 a month cocaine and pain pill habit going forward.
My goodness.
Everything that I was told that day, there was another half that they didn't tell me. I wish he told me that it would caused me to lose my license, my car, the respect of people that employed me, that cared about me, that I would wind up stealing from my own family to support that habit at one time in my life. My 80-something-year-old senior citizen grandmother, I'd go over to her house and I would present as if I was there to bring her lunch. And she couldn't walk very well. So while she sat on one side of the house eating clam chowder I brought her and thinking about how much her oldest grandchild remembered and loved her, I was down the hallway letting my disease win. And I was finding that spot in her bathroom where she used to hide cash. And I would just go help myself and buy my dope. And, it's when you think about those moments that my grandmother helped raise me, she would have given her own life for any one of her 5 grandchildren. And now I'm doing that. That's when you know that you no longer control your own decisions, that this thing has taken over. And yet I'm still responsible for every single one of them. I did that. And until I owned it and went back to correct some of that, it was going to be more of the same. The disease was taking over.
Wow. I mean, thank you for sharing. That must have been difficult to say, but so incredible how far you've come. Like truly, like I know we just met, but I was tearing up a little bit there. Like it's pretty incredible. Like the progress you've made, how far you've come. Like, wow, really, really amazing.
Thanks, brother.
And it's crazy how like one night, like that's what I was going to ask next, but you already kind of said it. I was going to say how much time then, like, did you spend seeking out cocaine and seeking out pain pills? But you said 8.5 years, just about. So yeah, it's like that one night really like, shaped a large percentage of your life.
Yeah, it did. And the decision to stop was a whole other ball of wax. I had moved out of my parents' house. I had been living homeless for 44 days. I called up a really good friend of mine who lives in town. Someone who I consider a best friend, who will always mean a ton to me. His name is Ryan Saucier. He's an attendance counselor at New Bedford High. And Sauce basically said, I have a room in my condo right in New Bedford. If you'd like to come live with me, we'll see how this goes. Let me look out for you, kind of thing. And he did. And with Not Your Average Joe's being right around the corner, it made sense. I didn't even have a vehicle, so I went to live with Ryan, and that's where I was able to clear my debt and work on getting clean from the things that I was destroying my life with. Gave me a second lease on life. And if it wasn't for Ryan, maybe it would have been another way, but the road became a little bit easier the day that he chose to involve himself and let me kind of come in under his wing. And not that I still didn't make some poor decisions, but they were minimized. And I was really able to get a handle on getting my future back, because the way I was going, it wasn't going to be long, man. It was my life was going to be a lot shorter, and I was going to be an example in a different way, in a way that I didn't want to be. Mm-hmm. So August 31st, 2013, a couple of us went out for a late celebration of my birthday, which had been a week before. Went to a buddy's house, and he was somewhat of a known coke dealer, I would say. And for 8 straight hours, it was line of coke, cigarette, Miller High Life, shot of Jim Beam. And I repeated that for 8 straight hours, as if somehow that's a way to celebrate your birthday, to destroy yourself. And when I got back to the condo at 5 a.m., I walked all the way home in the rain, about 2 miles. Walked through a couple of what I would say less than safe areas, and collapsed in my bed. Wake up the next afternoon, I'm laying on my stomach and my hand is underneath me, and I can feel this sharp pain from the left side of my body. So when I rolled over and started to kind of assess what was wrong, I realized it felt like full on cramp, left side of my stomach. and went into the bathroom. And then I began to realize my left hand wouldn't open. So I just thought, well, I'm dehydrated from the alcohol and the Coke and cigarettes. And so I start drinking a bunch of water, gave myself some time, and my left hand wouldn't open. So I drove to the immediate care center. And when the doctor saw me, he just said, "What happened to you?" Couldn't exactly be that honest. So I started making stuff up. And he listened, and then he kind of, I don't know if he got pissed or if he just got disappointed, but there was a light bulb that went off in my head that said to myself, oh shit, this guy's a father. He took a chair, came over into the center of the room, turned it around backwards, sat on it, rubbed his face, and he said, "Okay, Justin, I want you to tell me what's really in your diet." So I told him. We didn't talk at all about food. We talked about the amount of high life, bourbon, cocaine, cigarettes, all of it. And he said, "You had
It's a smart doctor to be able to just,
yeah,
really ask you that question."
Yeah. He went right at it. And it was like, how do I get out of this one? And I realized I'm talking to a dad. He never told me he had kids, but I could tell by the empathy that was in him. And also sort of that rub of like, I'm in trouble. I did something I shouldn't have. We all know that feeling.
Oh yeah.
And so he said, "Well, congratulations. You had a very small, mild stroke in your sleep last night, and you survived it. And you won't have any lingering effects." He said, "You have an infection. Prescribe me some amoxicillin." And when I went and picked that up, I was angry because I wanted a painkiller, and he wouldn't give it to me. So when I got back to the condo, it was one of those things like, great, a doctor finally gives me pills, and it's not any that are going to help me, because I still wanted that escape. Mm-hmm. That was my focus. My focus wasn't getting better. My focus was to escape. And he wasn't on board with playing that game. So that was the last time that I used. When I woke up the next day after crying for most of that night, asking how my life had become this, and even contemplating suicide. I woke up on September 2nd now, and I just decided that was it. I was going to do everything I could to never use again. So,
wow, dude. Sounds like you've had some pretty incredible people in your life, Ryan, and then this doctor who kind of read you like a book a little bit and was like, "I'm not giving you painkillers." And like you kind of wonder, like, where would you be without these people? Kind of like, especially Ryan, like kind of seeing something in you, being like, "Yo, like I'll give you a chance here." Like it's that hospitality, but not the industry, like true hospitality of like a person to a person. Like,
yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, brotherhood, man. He's always looked out for me. Been friends a long time, and I'm grateful. I look back at those pivotal moments. If that person or that thing, that piece hadn't have happened the way that it did, it could be very, very different. So grateful for it.
For sure. How has the service industry affected you, other than your drugs and alcohol? Just being in the industry, like, high stress situations. What effect do you think it's had on you?
Yeah, so both positive and negative. Being someone who comes from this area, this area is very go, go, go. It's the guy driving the car behind you is on you. It's when the light goes from red to green, the horns honk.
Yeah.
So there has always been an anxious thing in me that I have struggled with, and have worked that at different times of my life, other times and not so much. So the industry has sort of exacerbated anxiety a little bit, and there's things you have to do to manage that. But I would say that the industry has opened a lot of doors for me as well. It's been a lot of positives. I've met some of the best people in my life through food and beverage, whether it be a guest, an introduction from this guy's buddies, dog sitters, hairdresser, whatever. But even the people I've worked with, the cross section of people, the broadness, getting to meet all types of all walks of life. And it has opened some amazing doors. in my life that I'm grateful for. Too many to name. So, it's a mix. It's a mixed bag.
Mm-hmm.
And a person has to pay attention to manage that bag correctly. There's been times I've managed it poorly. Life didn't go so good. And then there's times I've just said, okay, it's more of the law of attraction than the law of promotion.
Right.
And you let it come. And you realize like there's sort of this power in being passive rather than always being the controller, the operator, So I'm grateful for it. The industries, if I had to go back and do it again, I would just make some big adjustments.
Yeah.
That have to do with me, not with others.
Right.
So,
taking it back to, September 2nd, you make this decision, and what was the first 6 months like?
It's because I didn't go to an organized recovery. My time stamping of that first even year is a little bit different than most. It's a little foggy, although I expect it to be foggy for anyone coming out of almost a decade of abuse, self-abuse like I did. But I think overall it was a whole lot of monotony, and that's one of the things about recovery that most folks miss is you have to accept that. You have to be comfortable with the same thing over and over every day. And you start to think like, this is boring. Like, no, this is life. It's not boring. You just don't have that high endorphin release from the things you're chasing. But it was probably about 3 months after that I had been offered the general manager position at another restaurant in town, outside of the hub of town, and it didn't go so well. I didn't listen. They weren't exactly folks who were going to be very flexible with me. They knew exactly what they wanted. I went into that job and I tried to do way too much without any order or purpose, just because I thought that it was the best to do. And here I was, and now I'm going to do it. And I was at that job for about 6 weeks, and they pulled me aside and they said, "We're done. Thanks for trying, but we're going to let you go and we're going to move on." The moment was too big for me. I couldn't manage something like that. I was still trying to manage myself.
Right.
So it really wasn't until maybe about a year plus later that I was offered management in another establishment. I had moved back to Louisville, and that gift was offered, and I took it and tried to do different with it. So those first few months there was a whole lot of head down.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to look people in the eye, to remember some of the things that you've done at parties or, when you thought nobody was looking. And now you can't hide with those substances. You feel it. You feel all of it. You're sort of, there's a little bit of that naked, exposed feeling for sure. Mm-hmm. Part of it makes you want to run back and go hide again. But I knew that if I did, my life was going to be very, very short. So,
to that point, I've known a few people who have passed away. I've only been in the industry for a couple of years outside of school, but like my friend Carlos, again, apologize to anybody who listens to all the episodes. I know I've talked about this before, especially with Randy, because Randy also knew Carlos. They were very close. And yeah, one night he just passed away. He was also using cocaine a lot, and just was at work. And then the head chef at the time, Yehudi, just came up and was like, "Hey, just want to let you know, like, Carlos passed away last night." And this is like someone who, you see every day, like working, 50 hours a week together. Like, he was like, bring me food that his wife made, give me some, like, true, like, great dude. And then, just gone. Just like that. So can you speak on that a little bit, to what it feels like to, I don't know if you've ever lost anybody to substance abuse, but as somebody who almost lost himself you know, or have you ever lost anybody?
37.
37 people?
Between alcohol, other substances, a few to mental health that was coupled with substances. It just, they decided, you know, to end their life, to unalive themselves, I think is the way that some say it. The first one that the first one that I lost was way ahead of the opiate curve that we saw about 10 years ago. And he was 1999. He was one of my best friends growing up. He was a missionary kid. His parents and my parents were very good friends. They had formed a friendship through faith, and his parents were missionaries to different regions of Africa. And he had 3 siblings. He was the third oldest. We were the same age, and then his younger sister is my sister's age. So it was easy when they came home on furlough for us to get together. The 2 older kids had each other to play with, and then I had David, and my sister had Laura. And David had a hard time. He had a hard time verbalizing his feelings on things. So he did exactly what I did, even though most would say I probably had a bigger mouth. And he packed it away. He packed it away and kept packing it and packing it and packing it and never talked about it. And when he tried to, it still didn't all come out. So he hung on to it, and he used to cover it to make himself feel better. But you know that self-worth, it goes up and down just like the drug does. And so at the end of the day, his resting self-worth was far below what it should have been. Good-looking kid, fun, loving. If he had a piece of, you know, pie, and you were sitting next to him, a couple of bites were going to you. It's just a good human being, and he'll forever be, you know, 2021. So that was impactful. I remember being a sophomore in Clearwater, Florida, and my mom calling me and telling me, you know, that his parents had called my folks and that his life was over. He tragically passed away, I believe, in a Philadelphia motel. And the sadness that surrounds that, the family still deals with today. But it's never easy. You know, I've gotten the calls over the years. I've had people that I've tried to help. Some I have helped, and some unfortunate decisions. And so they're no longer with us. It's never easy, you know, to watch that, to know what could have been, you know, and I relate it this way to Boston folks or to folks in this area. You know, it's, if you've never lost someone close to you, there's this peace, there's this, you know, you count on them for certain things the same way they count on you. Now all of a sudden that piece is gone. So you think of a puzzle, right? Like life is a puzzle. And then there's this piece, and you just can't get up and go get another piece exactly like it and make it fit. There isn't another piece that fits. That piece was meant to fit, and it's no longer available. And so the puzzle is never quite the way that it should have been. You know, that lifelong grief. Therapy, it's the only way to deal with that. So,
yeah, it's very sad when people are passing, especially like younger people like that. That's just heartbreaking.
And I think if it's okay to add to that,
of course,
I think that one of the reasons that we keep finding ourselves in these shoes, okay, and this is to quote probably my absolute favorite voice on this issue, Chris Herron, local basketball player. Everybody, you know, knows Chris and who he is. And you know, we keep focusing on the worst day of this topic instead of the first day. We keep looking at the end and saying, oh, look how horrible this is. Look how terrible it is. We talk about people that we know that have struggled and had an unfortunate end, and we say, look how bad it turned out. There's almost this throw your hands in the air resolution that we really can't do anything. We're focused on the end instead of going back to the beginning and asking ourselves, why did this happen in the first place? You know, it's too late. when we're at the end and everyone is standing around a gravesite and there's these bad feelings and sorriness. But nobody wants to go back to the beginning and say, what about education? Like, how is it 2025 and wellness is still not a core class in our schools? Like, until we do that, the talk is just talk. It doesn't equal anything. When we institute it in our schools and we make it a core class, and kids from the time that they're young learn how to cope correctly, how to treat themselves, how to take care of themselves for the life of them, no matter what happens. Until then, we're just going to keep experiencing this sort of thing.
I completely agree. I think the education system would benefit so much from something like that. Teaching kids their self-worth and, also how to cope with these negative feelings that kind of blossom into substance abuse and, unfortunately, people passing away sometimes. I think would be something that would be amazing, because a lot of times it starts for people in school. Like, you want to, like you were saying, those insecurities come out. Popular kids are doing this. You want a part of it. And then, that can lead down a dark path.
Yeah, can. In 1996, we had a man come to my school, and the principal announced that he was going to share his story in the gymnasium. It was a Friday, 1 p.m. So here I am, 16 years old, right? Probably at that time, one, if not the largest high schools on the East Coast, New Bedford High, winning all kinds of state championships, all kinds of accolades. The school, the athletes there, nationally ranked in some sports. And I remember that man coming into our school, and my buddies and I, we rolled into that talk, probably about 10 of us, about 10 deep. We sat all the way at the top in the corner, conveniently where there were the least amount of adults to hold us accountable. And we laughed and joked the entire time. We didn't listen to anything that guy said. He poured himself out, and we could have cared less. And, we believed that strength came in numbers. That was our toughness. And I mean, how stupid and how toxic and how immature. I wish somebody had grabbed me by the back of the neck and said, hey, you're going to struggle with this when you get older, because you're not going to know how to handle life. But the whole time that man poured himself out, I kept telling myself, I'm not like him. He lost everything. What a loser. That was my thinking. Like, look at this poor, pathetic guy. There's nothing about me and him that's the same. I'll never be him. And found out different. It was, the opportunity was there at 16 years old to listen, and I chose not to. And I think for some that choose to listen, it puts them on a different path in life if they can stick with it, if they can look inside and they can find their self-worth. But I couldn't. So when I went to the parties, when I hung out with my friends, there were kids there that never drank. And it was like, what do they have that I don't? Like, how come they're okay? But at 16 years old, I need it all of a sudden just to be me, just to hang out with kids I've known since first grade. Why is it that this thing has to come with me and they don't need it? It doesn't go with them. There was something in me that was different. It was missing, and I knew it, but I would never have admitted it. Now I can, of course.
What do you think that was? Like, what do you think it was that you were missing, or that feeling of trying to escape? Like, what was it in you that caused you to gravitate towards things like that?
Yeah, I think that there's some kids. I think that they're okay with themselves. They have worked on themselves in little areas where confidence, social interactions. I was exposed to all of that when I was a kid. But, there were some moments in my life, some influences that weren't so good. And as the years mounted, rather than finding ways to talk about it, I buried it. I buried it and I hid it. And when I got caught doing something I shouldn't have, I buried it even more. Because now I was mad that I got caught and I couldn't get away with XYZ and I had to serve a punishment. So that rebellion, my parents, as hard as they tried, they weren't able to break through to me. It was just, I looked at my parents as authoritarian figures. So who were there to make sure that I was fed and that I had a place to be safe. There were a few influences in my life when I was young that you could see positive response to, but those people in my life were, maybe a camp counselor or maybe a teacher for 6 months, and then it was over. And I didn't have the coping skills. Again, wellness in the 1980s, not a core class.
Yeah, it just was never taught.
Mental health was not a thing. To say that someone's mental health went sideways was saying that they needed to go to an insane asylum. So, at risk of looking like that, buried it. Never talked about it. Maybe some tears, but tears are silent. The person has to go through the act of talking about it, opening up, and dealing with it. And I wanted none of that. So I buried it, and I got old enough to where the substances came around and I was off and running.
Man.
Yeah.
What a life you've lived.
Yeah.
Can you speak on how you have stayed sober for so long? Like, what are some of the methods, or if you could share some of your advice for people, maybe someone who's struggling, like what are your methods to stay sober after becoming sober? And
Yes.
Kick those patterns.
So I want to be really clear about my recovery dates, because I don't want to mislead the recovery community. I don't want to mislead anyone listening. Again, I highly and fully recommend seeking out recovery, organized recovery, where there is accountability, there's counselors. Don't do it the way that I did. I know it sounds odd, but legit don't.
No, I don't think it sounds odd at all. You're learn from my experience is what you're saying. And I think that's great. Like,
I wish that I had gone to a Heron Wellness in Seekonk, Massachusetts, or something like that, where there was full accountability, where they took my phone, where they went through my bags. I know that sounds heavy, but it's necessary. It's part of it. And you can earn those things back as privileges in time. But September 1st was the first day that I didn't use. So that is the date that I hold close to me, 2013. So coming up on 12 years. But with alcohol, and again, my understanding and my evolution in recovery is not the norm. It is very, very, very minute, unrecommended. I continue to allow alcohol to be in my life socially. I didn't think that I had a problem with it. I didn't have results of having a problem with it. The DUIs, but really, I didn't have the physical tells. It wasn't until I chose. It was November 6th of 2023. So we're talking less than 2 years ago. I chose to put it down. I had enough. The hangovers, that wasn't a thing. I mean, I'm talking about a glass of wine with dinner. I'm talking about a beer with a friend at the end of the night at my house. Much different than what a decade had looked like before. But I came to a place to where I asked myself, is this really serving any real purpose? If someone says, well, yeah, it helps you relax or take the edge off, there's other ways to do that. At the end of the day, what it came down to was taste. And I'm a very taste-forward human as a chef. I love to taste. But what I realized was I've tasted this stuff enough that from flavor memory, I can duplicate it. Right now, if you say to me, New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, I can recreate that flavor in my mind and I will salivate.
Oh, yeah. My mouth instantly started watering as soon as you said that.
Yeah. Now, if you say California Sauvignon Blancs, they're more melon forward. New Zealand's are more grapefruit forward. I can recreate that flavor in my mind and even the nuances because I've had enough of it. I know it. I'm at a point in my life where I'd rather have the people. honest to God. And I was in a restaurant that I was a partner in Louisville, where my business partners had showed up a little early at one of our stores, and he ordered a bottle of wine, and we would have a glass and we would talk about some of the things on the agenda. 2 days before that night that I'm speaking of, I walked into that same restaurant, and a hostess walked up to me and she said, "Are you Justin Cruz?" And I said, "I am." And she said, "They told me that you worked for the basketball player whose video they showed me in rehab 2 weeks ago." And I said, "Yeah, I work for Chris. I know Chris well." And she said, "Can you help me?" 19 years old, neither one of her parents in her life, 2 siblings, both fully entrenched in addiction. And she's asking me for help. So we made some small talk, made a connection. 2 nights later now, my buddy orders that bottle of wine. I show up. He pours a glass. I happen to look over my left shoulder. She's at the host stand. Now she has her back to us and she can't see me. I pushed the glass of wine forward, never had another drink of alcohol, because I realized if she sees me with that, she's going to say to herself, how come he can and I can't? And he's the one helping me. That'd be a horrible example. What are the chances that young girl figures all that out and lives a great life of recovery? 0. I'm going to be the reason she goes back. No way, man. Since then, I found the benefits of not drinking alcohol in my own life. I gave it up because in my mind, I realized it was going to trip up others. What I've now realized 20-something months in is that there was a little bit of me that was hiding in it, in that repetitious 1 a night, sometimes 2 on weekends. There was still a little piece of me in it that was using it as a cope. And I couldn't see that until I gave it up. I would have never admitted that when I was having what most would say is responsible consumption. Now that I'm on the other side of that, I'll never go back. I will honestly live the rest of my life without ever having another drop of alcohol.
It's incredible.
And I'm proud of that.
And so selfless. Like this girl is reaching out to you and looking to you as hope. Like she's like, help, literally asking for help.
Yeah.
And yeah, to just put down the cup and be like, no, that's amazing, man.
Yeah. Somehow my liberty would exceed her right to be healthy. I don't buy that. Yeah,
because it's true. If she sees you doing that and she's looking to you for help, it's like, well, can this guy really help me if he's, having a drink? And again, it's not like you're going crazy with it like you had in the past. It's like you were at a point where you were being reasonable and responsible with alcohol consumption, but you still saw your old habits a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah, the reflection of it. It showed me that there was still a little bit that was alive. I hadn't fully killed it. I hadn't used anything that was destroying my life, the cocaine and the pain pills and all of that, and the things that come with it, the theft, the lying, the fake apologies, the insincerity. So I got that handled. But there was this little piece that was laying dormant that was alive in me that I didn't know, and to kill that, to keep that from taking another run at me later in life. So here's the thing. So we all admit that evolution is a central thing to our existence. So if I'm going to evolve and this disease is inside of me, the disease is going to evolve. It's very smart. It's methodical. It takes its time. It's not in it for a quick kill. It's in it for the long haul. There's a place that I could see in my life, 50s, 60s. Who knows? Maybe I'm retiring or I'm struggling to retire. And that thing creeps back up because I left the door open. See, I don't have to worry about that now because that door's shut.
I love that. You're reminding me of, I don't know if you've ever read the book Power, 48 Laws of Power. I feel like that book gets a bad rap. People think you're like trying to manipulate people when you read that book, but it's really like got some good mantras in there from all sorts of different literature. And you're reminding me of this one, which is destroy your enemies completely.
Mm.
And it's not a physical enemy. It's like an internal enemy. But it's true. If you leave one soldier alive, like you leave that, oh, it's okay to have a glass of wine. That, like you're saying, totally could come back and, kill you in your sleep, as you would say in the olden times. Like, you have to destroy your enemy completely. So it's like I think you just practiced that like perfectly. You saw that and you're like, this is going to come back. And so you nipped it in the bud.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key right there. Like, just get it completely. Don't like let it survive, because it will come back.
Yeah. Yeah. And alcohol is not something that we bargain with. Like, we think that we do because we're the ones that earn the money to go buy it. Then we go pick it up. Then we bring it back. Then we drink it. All of the action items are on the human until the alcohol's in you. Then you're no longer in control of it. It's you've put it into your body. So now it is going to do what it is made to do. And not everyone has that disease. Not everyone that consumes alcohol is coping or hiding. Like, I don't believe that a person who isn't an alcoholic can't have a beverage safely. Of course you can. But for a guy like me who has the illness that I have and admits that, it is not wise to bargain with alcohol just because it wasn't the substance that I struggled with. But when I got honest about it, I had to say that I'm a whole lot better off without it. I mean, it's, I kept justifying in so many different ways without even realizing that's what I was doing. And now that it's removed, like, I'm never going back. There's no
Amazing.
way. No thanks.
Do you know Theo Vaughn, the comedian?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know he struggled with substance abuse a lot, and I watch his podcast sometimes. I think he's hilarious. But he made a metaphor one time about alcohol abuse, which he definitely struggled with. And it's kind of silly, but he was saying, like, it's one of the only sicknesses that, like, reminds you about it. It's like, he used a shirt as a metaphor. Like, he was like, oh, dude, like, you're not wearing a shirt right now. Like, that's your alcoholism talking. Being like, you're not wearing a shirt right now, but you're wearing a shirt. But then you want to put a shirt on because it's telling you to do it. I'm sure I'm butchering that a little bit.
No.
But I thought it made sense, because it's like, it reminds you, like, when you're really deep in it, that it's like, hey man, you didn't have a drink today. Like, are you good? Like, or the next day it's like, oh dude, you should have a drink. Like, you need to kind of keep, even if it's just a healthy amount, like 1 drink a night or 2 drinks on weekends, like you said, it's like it still will whisper, like, in your ear, be like, dude, like, you're not wearing a shirt right now. You should put a shirt on. And like, that shirt is the alcohol. Like, you need to put that identity on. And I thought that resonated a little bit, because I was like, that's, it has a life of its own.
Yeah, no doubt. And for those who can use it safely and choose to, and don't have what I have or what millions of others have, I'm not jealous. I applaud you. I would encourage to continue. Safe is health is the focus. But for me personally, I'm good without it. So
amazing. It's been pretty heavy, but we can move to some lighter topics.
Sure.
What's your, like, I know you've been in the industry a while, so what's like your funniest day that you remember, like at work, working in kitchens? Like, just a funny memory that you remember fondly.
Well, I'm trying to think.
You can take your time to think. Too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been an interesting career. So funny. Boy, that's to try to pick one. I mean, there's a lot of funniness that goes on in the kitchen. There's some pretty hilarious. All right, so I'll give you one. So we're this is probably, I don't know. This is maybe 7-8 years ago, and it was a bar style ale house, and so we had cucumbers on our menu, and I think that all they went on was the house salad, single use item. Mm-hmm. Buy in small amounts, go from there. So Well, we had a local guy who came into our establishment all the time. He loved us. He was probably around a little too much, to be honest, but it's sort of an extension of the friendship that can form between patrons and employees. He had gone out to his uncle's farm, and he had brought squash and zucchini into the kitchen, and they just got put up, and they got put up near the cucumbers. And we're not talking about, elite chefs. We've running a very humble, concept, and we're just employing some average Joes. They haven't had any formal training. They haven't had a chance to work with guys like you or some of the other chefs that we know. So salad goes out to a guest at the bar, and it comes back, and we're being told that it doesn't taste right. And so trying to figure it out, and the zucchini had been cut correctly on the bias. It looked like a cucumber. It had the seeds there, and it had been blanched off. And so it got picked up, and it made its way onto the salad. And when this woman got her salad, she realized right away there was an issue. She sent it back, and we had served her blanched, thinly sliced, absolutely disgusting, gross zucchini on this salad, as if somehow, it was going to be delicious, and somebody mistook the cucumber for the. That's just one that comes to mind. It's probably not all that funny.
I did that just the other day. Because we are always getting vegetables from farms, and the zucchini and the cucumbers got put in the same box one day, because sometimes we're lazy, and people just throw it in there and write cucumbers and zucchini in a fish tub or something, because they're so similar. They're from the same farm, or whatever.
Sure.
But man, it's so stupid because they look so similar. I did the same thing. I cut them all up, and Lisa came over and was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm cutting up cucumbers for this dish." And she was like, "That's zucchini. That's zucchini."
That's not. Yeah. And I mean, it's such a simple mistake to make, but I just thought you want to be like, man, how could you possibly pick up a piece of already cooked zucchini and somehow you see it's compromised, and then throw it on the salad? So then what, did you think that was just like a cucumber that was toward the end of its life?
Yeah.
And you still thought it was okay to serve that?
It's just a soggy cucumber.
Right, man.
I'll just serve it.
There's been some other times, we had a situation one time with Kalamata olives. They weren't all pitted. Guy bit into it. It's not funny, his tooth. We've had all sorts of interesting, I've had oyster shucked, where they didn't pay attention and make sure there weren't any of the little micro crabs hanging out in there. So you get a little bonus.
That's the protein in it.
That's a turn off, man. Oh gosh, can I take that back, please? But yeah, we've had all kinds of, I've had guys show up to work and probably from whatever they were doing the night before, but they've got two different Crocs on. Had a guy one time show up, he couldn't find his second Croc, and he didn't stay at home. So he showed up to work with a shoe and a non-shoe, and we had to figure that out. There's been all kinds of interesting things over the years.
The things you see in kitchens, really, it's I went to culinary school, but nowhere did they don't prepare you for the people that you're going to meet in the industry, because you meet some characters, some serious characters.
Yeah. You run out of trash bags of the normal size, the big 60 gallon. And then, so you've only got these little sizes. Well, you've already closed up for the night, and your dishwashers, who may not speak English all that well, are closing up, and they can't leave a note. They can't explain to the front of the house manager that all that's left are the little office trash bags. So they spend 20 minutes stretching out an office trash bag carefully to fit your big cylinder garbage can. And when you come in the next morning, you're wondering, how did that get like that? What happened here? And then with some investigation, you find out. So, kitchens with a million moving parts and all different types of people involved. Those types of things are going to happen.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah. And sometimes it's laziness too. People always trying to find the easy way. And it's hard sometimes to hold yourself accountable too, because it is easier just to be lazy. But then there's sometimes where you're no, I need to uphold your personal quality standard. I had a chef at school that told me that. He was that when you graduate, your personal quality standard is all you have.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you know, what you don't know. If you don't hold yourself to a standard, it doesn't matter. This is all for naught, because everyone around you is going to be being lazy, and you need to be the one that's leading by example. And keeping your station clean, and even on the slow nights, making sure everything's labeled, clean out your station, like just having that quality standard, I think is something that I wish people had more of, especially just at like, places around here, like just in kitchens. It's not something that, like, everybody says you can learn everything just by working in the industry, which I think is true. Like, you don't need to go to culinary school. But I do think that is a valuable thing I learned there is there's someone standing over your shoulder being like, wipe down your station. Did you clean out your pans tonight? Did you flip all these quarts? Like, like cleanliness and just holding yourself to that standard is like something I wish people had a little bit more of, because it's hard to teach once you've already been doing it for 10 years.
Right. Exactly.
That's the tough one is, teaching an old dog new tricks with that, even though it's like, seems kind of obvious. It's like, you just wipe your station down, but it's like a lot of times people just leave it for the end of the night and they're like, oh, I'll clean it later. But you're preparing food for people now. Like, you want your station to be clean, don't you? Like a little bit. What is the most important thing you've learned in your time in the industry, or the most useful thing you've learned, like skill wise?
Oh man.
It also doesn't have to be a skill like chopping something or whatever. It can also be like a management thing. Like, what's just the most important thing or concept that you think about every day when you're working? Yeah.
So, mise en place. I mean, it truly is the most foundational. For anyone who doesn't know, mise en place, essentially the dynamic translation is everything in its place. The house is in order. The house has balance. All of those implications into that little French, statement. When I get ready to cook, I'm working toward, I'm not just prepping the food, and asking the front of the house, how many covers do we have tonight, so that I can math. It's really about everything. If I close my eyes right now and I reach to my right, my fish spatula with the blue handle is right there. There's a set of short tongs and there's a big plating spoon. If I reach to my left, the last thing on my left here is probably my backup oil. So I know I can close my eyes and it's where I left it. Everything has a home. Everything has a place. And people think it's an extension of maybe my stricter point of view. But if it goes here, it doesn't go to the left. It doesn't go to the right. It goes here in the center. Please leave it here. And it's hard when you have a kitchen that's moving and has that many parts and pieces and guests to satisfy. But mise en place of everything having its order in a walk-in cooler, it has to have order. If it's just a free-for-all and things are put wherever they want or wherever somebody could find open spot, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
That restaurant's not going to be very good.
Mm-mm.
And so I've adopted that mise en place philosophy across my life. So right now in my bedroom's completely organized to the point that some people would say maybe I spend a little too much time, but I know where everything is. I don't lose anything that way. It minimizes the chances of failure, I guess you could say, or of not equaling the desired end.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's if I had to take one, and there's a lot of them, but that's the one. That's the foundation for everything else.
I completely agree. Like, if I kind of get similar during service, where it's like everything needs to just be where I put it. And like sometimes if somebody comes on expo, it's not normally an expo, they're moving stuff around, and I'm like, please just don't touch anything, because I am moving quickly, and you depend so much on muscle memory.
That's right.
When you're working the same station day in and day out, that it's like, the other day I moved my Bain Marie with like my little rubber spatula, plating spoon, slotted spoon, like the long tweezers. I just moved that to the left of my little area, and I normally have it on the right because usually whoever's on expo is on the right. So I was like, oh, this is more efficient if I have it on the left. It took me like 3 days to stop reaching here and I should be reaching here.
Mm-hmm.
And just like that little change, I just moved it over a little bit, but that made me so much less efficient until I got used to it. But like, it's crazy how much it's muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're really going, and like Danny, who I work with, he's the sous chef where I work. He's always like, oh, you work pasta so different than I do. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like we both get it done. You know, it's like everybody has their own system. Like his meals would look completely different than mine if he was working the station that night, but it doesn't really matter. As long as it works for you, like that's all that really matters.
Yeah, as long as the two dishes look alike, and they are alike, you know, you're good. But the means to the end is so important. You know, when I tell people, I watch some guys cook and it's just stuff everywhere. It's chaos. And I'm like, there's no way if they just took the time to tighten it, they would see that their dish would tighten.
100%.
You know, but
yeah, I've worked with some pretty insanely fast cooks. But something I've always prided myself on was like, I was always fast, but they'd be like, oh man, like you're taking so long on this. I'd be like, yeah, but look at my station. And now look at your station. And like, that's always what I would snap back with. Cause I'm like, my station is spotless, not a drop on the piano. Like literally just nice. Any crumb that drops, I have a free second. I'm wiping it up.
Yep.
Just keeping it as clean as I possibly can. Cause that's how I was trained.
Yeah.
And they're like, even if they're 5 or 10% faster than me, it's like, well, yeah, but my station looks nice. And like, I'm going to take that to the bank because that's all I got. that's all I got. If money was no object, would you still choose to be a cook / chef? You have millions of dollars in the bank right now.
I would still be doing something with food somewhere. You know, I've owned restaurants before. I still own one down in Louisville. Have a business partner down there, and she does fantastic. I would say I would still be involved. I would probably be out of the kitchen the majority of the time, probably doing the restaurateur side of things. But there's still going to be times that I put the chef digs on and I go at it. I wouldn't see myself changing careers or rewriting the story in any way. I'd probably travel a whole lot more. I'd be over in Europe a little bit with my phone shut off. But yes, I would, because there's still that hospitality in me that my grandmother and my mother instilled in me. You know, and even my father's side, his dad owned a Red and White at the bottom of Division Street in Fall River for 40 something years. And there was that customer service, the act of serving. So that's in my blood on both sides of my family, very heavily. And, you know, my parents have always looked to try to serve and help others in need. So, no, I would probably still be involved. I probably would just maybe have more of them, and I guess maybe that would be more headaches, I guess. But I love it. I'm passionate about it. I love food.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and the people that are connected to it.
Give me your top 3 cookbooks. And you can take some time to think, because every time I ask someone that, they do exactly what you did.
Man.
Take a deep breath and they're like, shit, top 3.
Top 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Sean Brock Heritage. Oh, man.
What's that one about? I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, so Sean Brock, you familiar?
I'm not.
Sean Brock, James Beard, award winner, had a brand called Husk, Nashville, Charleston, and there may even be one in Georgia. And now he's I believe he sold Husk, and I believe that he's launched another brand. But Sean, Heritage, so his background is Appalachia, so Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And Sean has a very, I guess, socio-historical approach to food, where he takes a lot of the individual ingredients that have sort of been, they've fallen by the wayside over the years, some intentionally eradicated, maybe things that may have associated with slavery in the plantations. So for instance, Carolina rice, okra, which of course is still mainstream, but ingredients that we find that have almost gotten lost over the years, and Sean kind of revived them and brought them back, and putting them on the plate. So a lot of different types of beans, things that, you know, we would never see, and bringing attention to them and explaining the role in food history, American food history that they had, and then the advantage to using them going forward. And so heritage really focuses on the food that's found in the Appalachian region. Husk was kind of more of his edgy, cool, Southern, I don't want to say gastro, but there's some definite gastro techniques in there that he uses.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely say that opened my eyes to the fact that culturally, some of the cover-up related to slavery, that plantation owners and others coming out of slavery worked to eradicate the food sources that African slaves were fed. That the hate went that deep, and Sean basically said, "Nah, we're not going to erase our history. We're going to show you these ingredients because what's on the plate tells a story. Why they were used." And so you look into some of the Creole and the Cajun influences in New Orleans, you can see that, that those ingredients weren't lost because they tell a story. And I think that Jose Andres talks about that when we look closely at our food, it tells us a story if we're willing to listen. So I would say Sean's book.
It sounds very interesting. I'll have to give that one a read. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I got a copy I can bring. And I love Sean. Sean battled alcoholism. When he took a leave of absence from Husk, he was James Beard winner all across the board. And he started losing his eyesight because he was working 90, 100 hours a week, sleeping at the restaurant, drinking a large amounts of whiskey. And all of a sudden his body began to shut down and he had to rethink his journey. So he got sober and stepped out of the chef industry for a little while to recover. And now he's back doing probably bigger things than ever. I would say that one. I would say, Julia Child is such a boring answer because everyone expects it. It's really hard to narrow it down to three. Let me see if I can't finish this up real quick. Try to think of what's on my shelf. Boy, that's really hard.
That's okay. Take your time.
I don't know if I said Brock. Okay, so here's one that goes the opposite way of what I would normally give an answer to. Jose Andres put out a cookbook in 2019 called Vegetables Unleashed. And I'm a meatitarian. I want meat on the plate. I love it. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that there's a way to satisfy and to eat without having to carnivore every single time.
Yeah.
And his book helped open my eyes to how we can create flavors, brown butter, big caramelization, deglazing with different acids. There's ways that we can create flavor and satisfy our instinct to chew and find satisfaction in that. We can do it without meat. So I found that book really cool. And if I'm going to give a third one, as ugly as some of the contents can be, it's the most honest book is Kitchen Confidentials by Bourdain.
Oh man, what a book.
Yeah.
So good.
It's honest. He told us the truth. And anyone who's read that book, and they should, and goes into the restaurant industry and acts like they weren't told, sorry, Tony told us all.
Yeah. That it's the greatest expose of all time, in my opinion. It's so perfect from somebody who did it. And reading that book, I read it after I went to school and everything. So reading it, and then he also went to the CIA. So it's like, and I knew that because when you're there's a whole hall dedicated to him and like murals and stuff. But yeah, that book was a great read, just hearing him, because he also grew up working in Cape Cod. So it hits so close because it's right around here.
Yeah.
Because we're on South Coast Mass. And then, he went to CIA. It's where I went to school. And he's got this I'm going to, I'll show him mentality. And it's like, I think every young man can relate to that a little bit, where it's like, you want to get out there and show people your worth when you're, young and hungry. And like that part of the book really resonated with me. And then also the later part of the book where he talks about his heroin usage and all these things, which, sadly eventually claimed his life. it's tragic, but what a guy. With, one of one. There's never going to be another Tony, but he was super cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think the struggle there, without ever having known him personally, just benefited from his knowledge, parasitically. But I think that he had trouble staying connected. With recovery, when you have issues with substances or mental health or dark thoughts, staying connected with that group of people that struggle with the same thing, that identify with the same thing, and that struggle. He had a tendency in being on the road. Once CNN put him out there and he blew up, and became global, on the road a lot, it gets lonely. Hotel rooms and fast, quick meals and cameras and makeup artists. It's hard to stay connected. But I think for him, I think he knew that he was an addict, and I think he knew that he struggled with it. But other things took over, and that's very, very easy to fall into. So what happened with Bourdain, I think, was very human and very much based on what the odds give us. So there's no judgment there, but it's a lesson for those that really pay attention, and when you hear Eric Repair or you hear Jose Andres, two of his closest friends, talk about him, you can see the joy in their life that they were blessed to know him, but also, the deep grief that came from his loss.
For sure. I think it's definitely what you said is important for people to hear, that's, a lesson. This is somebody who's, world famous, surrounded by, like, his job is literally to relate to people and to talk to people and to learn, but kind of showing up for everybody except himself, which I think is really sad. Yeah. Based on your top 3 cookbooks that you gave, I think you'd really enjoy this book. I don't know where it is. This one here, On Vegetables by Jeremy Fox.
Okay.
Great book. The foreword is incredible. He also had like a crazy struggle with pain pills, I think, and worked his way up to head chef at so many different places, and then would basically just get fired because of his issues with drugs and substances, and then started over many times, basically going from dishwasher to head chef over and over again until he finally got sober. And when he finally got sober, he got this incredible opportunity to open up a restaurant and chose to pretty much just serve vegetables. And That book is just about how he treats vegetables, and it's got some great flavor combinations, like just incredible. Like the fried artichokes in there are amazing.
Cool.
So I highly recommend that book. It's really, really good. Let's wrap this up with your happiest food memory. What is the food memory you think of when you with those rose-colored glasses? Maybe something that inspired you to love food the way you do.
Happiest food memory. Man, boy, that's a good one. I didn't expect the questions to be this deep. I knew we'd talk about some heavy stuff. We're talking about, some of the subjects in front of us, but that one's got my arms crossed.
It's a tough question.
It is. Okay. So this is going to relate to the local area that we currently are in. It's going to relate to the culture as well as my background, and it circles back to my grandmother. So I think that this area consumes almost an innumerable amount of chorizo and linguiça.
Oh, yeah.
New Bedford and Fall River by themselves keep it on the map. And when you leave this area, it's very, very hard to find. Like one of the restaurants I was involved with down south for the last couple of years, we were flying it in from Gasper's overnight, dry ice. It was on the plate. We were the only ones in town that had linguiça. There wasn't a single other restaurant that had it. This area, it's everywhere. And my grandmother taught my mom, who taught me and my sister, kind of a Portuguese sloppy Joe. How to work the ground meat out with the right amount of liquid and aromatics, and then something as humble as slap it on a bun. Make sure you have some napkins and go. Like there's conversation can wait. No direct eye contact, no judgment. Just jump
Get in there.
Just jump in, man. And there's not a single time that I make that, or that my mom might make it for me if she's in town, or if I'm visiting her and my dad. That the first bite, flavor memory, like I'm 8 years old again and I'm in my grandmother's kitchen.
Brings you right back.
Totally.
It's that Ratatouille moment, when it's ego like going right in his face and he's like, having it for the first time. But that's amazing. Have
it again for the first time. Yeah, that flavor memory, it reduces me to 8 years old. It's back before I made all of my mistakes. It's back before I started, my journey as a teen or as an adult. I mean, we're talking about 8 years old. So where is that? That's third grade. And I can still see my grandmother's kitchen, which the house was sold, fully renovated over by a contractor. Doesn't look anything like what my head says that it does, but that flavor, I'm back there. And I would probably pick that as my answer.
Nice.
Yeah, it's special.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for doing this, man. What an incredible life you've lived. Your story is just amazing. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and doing this. This was great.
Yeah,
super,
thanks, Chef.
Super great. It's good for people to hear stuff like this because it's not just sunshines and rainbows in this industry. There's a lot of bullshit, a lot of challenges that aren't talked about, and that's kind of the goal here with the podcast and everything, is letting people like you, people who are part of the industry, just kind of share your experience and like what it has been like for you. Because I think the people that make up the industry are just incredible. Like I grew up watching Anthony Bourdain my whole childhood, and like I was always watching the Food Network and No Reservations and all this stuff. And I always loved how he just went and could relate to people, and food was the connector. Like I love that. So thanks again for doing this and reaching out, man.
Thanks, Chef.
This
Appreciate
is
you.
Incredible conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
See you guys.